Today I'm making one of my favorite Italian condiments, and that is a pesto made from scratch in a mortar and pestle. But this isn't your traditional pesto as you know it, because I use garlic confit. So as I said, this pesto does require a mortar and pestle. You can do it in a food processor as well, and that's just really simple to do because you throw all the ingredients in there and just blitz it up. But there's something so special about doing it by hand, pounding that basil and getting that beautiful fragrant smell from it, and just doing it all from scratch. And as you can see, I've got this beautiful basil. I've got some basil that's been sitting on my counter for a week or two. Putting it in some water and leaving it on the bench means it's going to last for ages, because basil actually likes a warmer climate. Don't put it in the fridge, little hot tip for you. But it has flowered, so it's going to have a little different taste to this basil, which is more fresh. But I'm going to try and use the two, and my advice is to always try and pick more of the tender, smaller leaves. So we're just going to pick those off. I'm not going to make a huge batch today, but you can make a small or as large amount as you like. And this pesto is perfect to toss through pasta. I do have a recipe on my website for garlic confit pesto pasta, but my favorite way of using it is in a sandwich with some burrata and some Italian deli meats and some olives. It's just perfection. We've picked off all the basil leaves, and I'm just going to pop them in a bowl, and I'm going to cover them in icy cold water. And the reason that I'm doing this is not only does it wash the basil leaves, but it also shocks them and keeps them that vibrant green color when we're working with it. Because you might make pesto at home and think, why isn't it as green as that store-bought pesto, which they do probably use a lot of preservatives and whatnot. But this is a little trick to keeping it green, and I'll also show you how to store it so it stays as green and vibrant as long as possible. I've let the basil sit in there for about 5 minutes, and I'm just moving it around with my hands just to give it a good clean. So we're just going to strain it now. And then you can just pick the ice out. I'm going to lay out some absorbent paper. And we're just going to dry off that basil really well, because we don't want it to be wet when we're making our pesto. Just get that ice out of there. I'm just going to get some more and just dab it dry. So I'm just going to set that to the side. All right, now on to the fun part. We are going to start making our pesto in a mortar and pestle. So you do need a little bit of upper body strength to do this. I love this mortar and pestle, but I have just pounded the hell out of this guy and he has broken. So I'm using this one today, but it's just so pretty that I want to keep using it. So that will still work. We've got our garlic confit, and in a traditional pesto, you start with the raw garlic cloves and a pinch of salt and just turn that into a paste. But because this garlic confit is so soft and because it's so mild in flavor, traditionally, we would use about 1 to 2 fresh garlic cloves, but I'm going to use about maybe 5 to 8 garlic confit cloves just to get that same garlicky flavor. Try not to put the olive oil in this step. I'm running a little low on salt, so probably put a little bit more in than that, but this should be all right. You'll see that the garlic confit is so soft that you don't need to use a lot of strength to turn it into a paste. So this is the perfect consistency that we're looking for, and you'll see that I've moved the garlic paste up along the rims of the mortar, and that's because I'm just seasoning that mortar with it, because when we make the pesto, it's going to go all up along the rims, and you want to get that garlic into every last inch of it. All right, now it's time for the pine nuts, and there is a little bit of an ordering with how you make your pesto when you do it in a mortar and pestle. Some people like to do the basil, then the pine nuts, but I like to do my pine nuts, then the basil. And you can also use any nut that you have on hand. I know pine nuts, if you're in Australia like me, are costing you an arm and a leg at the moment. I think they're like $15 for a little packet. So I do sometimes mix it up, and you can do a walnut pesto, an almond pesto, even a pistachio pesto works well as well. So we're going to use some pine nuts. So I've just grabbed a little pan, and I'm going to put the pine nuts in there because we're going to slightly toast them, and that's just going to make them have that toasty and more fragrant flavor in our pesto. You want to use, because I'm making a smaller batch, probably like one tablespoon. Let's say that's enough. And we're back. That took 1 or 2 minutes to toast those. Let's throw those in. And then we'll just pound it up into that garlic paste, and again working it around the edges. I like to keep a little texture with my pine nuts, so I don't pound them up too much. But as opposed to making this with raw garlic, the garlic confit is a lot wetter, so the texture is going to be slightly different. That's looking pretty good to me. There's still a little bit of texture. Some of the pine nuts still aren't fully broken down, and that's how I like my pesto. Now we add in the basil in batches. You can do this in 2s or 3rds. Probably do it in 3rds. And we're just gonna break that down into the garlic and the pine nut paste. So we've pounded down the basil, and you'll see that it doesn't have that lusciously green color, and that's because we've used garlic confit instead of raw garlic, which has more of a brown color because it gets a little bit caramelized in the oven, but it's still very, very delicious. So I'm just going to take the pestle out, and I've got a little bit of garlic confit olive oil left over, and that's got that beautiful garlic infused flavor. So I'm going to pour that in, but it still needs a little bit more olive oil. So I'm just going to use some extra virgin olive oil. You want to use really high quality olive oil when making your pesto. Extra virgin olive oil is best. And then we're just going to mix that through. And now I'm just going to grate a mix of Parmesan and Pecorino Romano. I don't have a lot of Parmesan today, but it's usually about a 50-50 ratio. And I probably do, it really just goes by feel. You probably do about half a cup, so about a 1/4 cup each. All right, that's looking like we've got enough cheese. I'm just going to mix that in. All right, that is looking good to me. That is a beautiful consistency. And let's do a little taste test. That just tastes so, so good. Now that we have our beautiful garlic confit pesto, I'm going to show you how to store it for when you want to toss it through pasta or spread it onto a beautiful piece of my no-knead focaccia. And I have a full cupboard of jars that I keep purely for this reason, because I make so many homemade condiments, from my homemade mayonnaise to my pesto, that I need lots of jars to store them in. One's a little bit small, but I'll show you my little trick, and that's to put a layer of olive oil on the top. And that's going to keep your pesto beautiful, fresh, green, in the fridge for a little bit longer than if you weren't going to do that, because pesto does brown quite quickly. So we've blanched those leaves in the icy cold water. We've got the layer of olive oil, and now that can just go in the fridge, and you can keep it for up to probably 4 or 6 days, I'd say, and just serve it however you please. If you liked this recipe, please follow and subscribe for more. And if you made it at home, please let me know in the comments. I love hearing about it when you cook my food. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.